Welcome to the Boston Bros Political Show. I'm Jim Campanini, co-host of the show with Boston Herald political columnist Peter Lucas. We're coming to you from the InsideLowell studios, sponsored by WellPoint. Your whole health is our whole point. I'm reading behind our producer, Teddy Panos, in the corner. He's blocking the sign, but we got that in there, Peter. Hey, Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good. It was except for the rain, it was a really good week for the news cycle. A lot of things breaking, but I have to go back to our Kentucky Derby pick. Journalism ran a great race. He got blocked a couple of times, still came second. I think he might have been the best horse in that race. But did you see who won the race? Donald Trump's horse. Sovereignty. He's making, he wants sovereignty all over the world. Some people might think he's not respecting it, but
I'm not surprised that journalism was a loser.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our profession, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In the case of ours, mine and yours. But it ran a good race. So now on to the Preakness. I don't even know if the horse is going to run. So what's number one on your plate this week?
Well, number one on my plate is Donald Trump going to the Mideast this coming week.
Big story.
And it's a big story because he's liable to come up with big things.
Yeah.
One of the big things he's come up with is changing the name of the Persian Gulf.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that's a riot. He wants to change the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Arabia.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, who does this really piss off?
The Iranians, of course.
Oh, I thought it was the Associated Press.
Well, them too.
Wait.
Yeah.
Are they going to sue Trump over this? Are the Iranians now going to sue Trump over this?
The Iranians are calling it a hostile act. Trump is probably calling it a joke.
Yeah. But you don't know when to take the guy sometimes seriously.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
I mean, he had an interview earlier this week where the reporter, what station was it? ABC, CBS? I don't know. I can't keep track anymore. All I know is that they still don't understand the guy, and they were talking about him having a third term, and he basically first he put it to rest. Then he left it open, and he was just pulling the reporter's leg all through the. She says, "Well, what about those hats you got that say 2028?" And he says, "Oh, we got a great Trump store. We got a great merchandise."
My theory is how he can do it is this way: after his 4 years, current term is up, he can run for vice president with, say, Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance running for president. They get elected. And then the president resigns, and Vice President Trump becomes president again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where there's a will, I guess there's a way. Trump will find it. But
now, maybe they may call him a king, but he probably just call himself a king, a monarchy, a constitutional monarchy.
Yeah. Because me being the constitutionalist, I don't think he can do that. The 25th Amendment is the 25th or the 22nd. I should know that. Says that if you're ineligible for either one of the positions, you're automatically, ineligible for the second. Meaning, if you're ineligible as president to run for a third term, you're automatically disqualified.
Jim, why pick his? I mean, Vladimir Putin can do it in Russia.
Yeah. So Trump will find a way anyway. He'll probably be a presence, and I like his thinking though. And that's another point that came up in a lot of the talking heads, both on Fox and CNN. You know, at least the Republicans have a vault of people who can step in as president. Trump pointed to Mark Rubio, the Secretary of State right now, and also to J.D. Vance as vice president. And then there are others underneath them, within the Republican Party who could step up. But you look at the Democrat side, and this is what these people are saying. The cupboard is really bare. unless you say AOC, is the standard bearer for the Democrats. But you'd have to go further left than Japan to find a constituency for her.
As they say, they've got no bench. They've got no bench.
Yeah. So that's what the problem is right now. It's for the Democrat Party. But it's interesting that switching gears here. Governor Healey, she's been one of the biggest Trump
She's on the
critics.
bench. She's on the bench.
Yeah, she might be on the bench.
Why not?
And a real deep bench. But you would. Promoting this idea, saying, Governor Healey, why isn't she more like Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan? Why don't you elaborate?
Governor Whitmer of Michigan, she was a severe Donald Trump critic, has been for years, and Trump was also very critical of her. He used to make fun of her, but. Lo and behold, she was in the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago, meeting with Trump because she has to solve Michigan's problems. One of which was they were going to close an air base that Michigan economically relied on, and there was a problem with the destruction of fish in Michigan in the Great Lakes. And after he met with her, and it was a kind reception, Trump went to Michigan. And came up with a program, not only to keep the base open, but to have a new fleet of jet planes stationed there. And this is a boom to the Michigan economy. And it represents some 600 jobs being saved, plus millions of dollars for the economy. It was a big deal. And
and she got criticized by the Democrats.
The Democrats criticized
the
her.
most liberal party, a part of the party, the liberal wing, called her a traitor. Because she did her job.
And she said, "I put my constituents ahead of my party."
Yes,
and that's what a governor is supposed to do. And I pointed out in a column that's running tomorrow, I believe, that it's something that Governor Healey should do. Trump meets with everybody. Practically. You knock on the door, you go in, you see him, and sometimes you come up with something, the way Whitmer did.
Well, he takes his job as president seriously, and I think he wants people to reach out to him because when you do meet him, most of the time he finds a common ground or he tries to make a deal, okay? But he's still the president of the United States, and he realizes that.
The problem here is Governor Healey has doubled down on her criticism.
Exactly.
She's gone national on her criticism of Donald Trump. Meanwhile, we got two bridges down in Cape Cod that need rebuilt, replaced, the Sagamore and the Bourne. We're talking $4-5 billion. We need federal money to help build those bridges.
Yeah.
There's no sign that Healey or the Healey administration is reaching out to Trump in any way to mitigate the situation.
Yeah. I don't think they know how to dial the number, if they even know the number. But what gets me is, you're right, she's doubled down. She's actually put in her budget, I think it was $5 million more for the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, to sue Trump.
To keep suing Trump.
She filed 100 lawsuits against Trump. Well, that worked during the Biden era. Trump was out of the White House. And now they just keep digging a deeper hole, going deeper down to the abyss. I mean, colleges are losing public monies, funding, and I think some other states have reached out to Trump and they've allayed some of those fears that originally reported because the things never came true.
What makes the situation even worse? Not only does Governor Healey not have any relationship with the President of the United States, none of the members of Congress do either.
Yeah.
We've got 9 congressmen. They're all critical of Trump. None of them ever meet with him. Our 2 senators, Warren and Markey, are out to lunch as far as dealing with Trump is concerned. They're constantly criticizing him. So it's no wonder that Trump is withholding funds from Harvard and other programs in Massachusetts.
But do you think
You got to be loyal. Your first job is to represent the people,
Yes,
not your party.
Well,
and I think that's lost in a lot of these Democrat politicians.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that this leads right into Marty Walsh, the former mayor of Boston, and also the labor secretary under Joe Biden, President Joe Biden. He had an interesting interview this past week with his former chief of staff, Dan Coe. You remember Dan Coe? He ran for Congress,
Right.
lost a really tight race against Lori Tahan, who was the present Congresswoman, from the 5th District. I think he lost by 117 votes. Well, he now runs a podcast, The People's Cabinet. And he had it in Walsh for the podcast, and Walsh criticized the Democratic Party. The Boston Globe did a story on it this week. You can see the headline: Marty Walsh on the Democrat Party. We don't have a message. The former Boston mayor is the latest high-profile Democrat to criticize direction of their party. Well,
I thought you canceled the club.
Well, I get this online.
Yeah, all right.
I get this online. Yeah, and he said that basically Walsh said that the party is out of touch with the concerns of everyday people. Now, this is nothing new. We've been saying this since
Right.
we started this show. We've been saying this,
Right.
and other people have come out and said it. James Carville was the first one who said it. I mean, I think he's almost 80, and these younger Democrats don't even pay attention to anybody with any wisdom or experience. Not that we should pay attention to James Carville, but he did say it. Bill Maher has said it on his show. But here's something that really struck me. This quote by Walsh. He said in the interview, "As a party, we don't have a message. I think everyone's trying to figure out how to respond to this administration today, but I don't think we learned from the first 4 years of the Trump administration how to respond to it. President Biden was a bridge. People thought it was going to be a bridge to the future, but it was a bridge to another Trump administration." What do you take by that? I mean, I
take this. Why didn't he say that when he was working for Biden?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. Yes.
It's like these reporters said, "Wow,
Yeah.
you tell me Biden was ill? I didn't know that. We covered it up. That's why we did."
More and more studies have come out, and it's not just because of the Biden administration. It's happened, before. But the rich got richer under Biden, okay, and the poor got poorer. There was a big, the wealth gap just blew up. National debt blew up, and the Democrats basically took care of their own. The elitists in the party, but and it's true. That's why Trump won over labor. He got more votes from black and Spanish-speaking people than ever before, and he basically crushed it. He won the popular vote and the electoral vote. I mean, and so now that here it is, 6 months after the election. 7 months after the election, Democrats still haven't figured out. They're still ignoring the same people.
I'll give it to Marty Walsh. He was a good politician. He was a retail politician. That's because he probably learned his trade as when he was a member of the Massachusetts House, which you're close to the people when you're a state representative. And when he was mayor, the problem with the Democrats, they've forgotten about retail politicians. Everything is wholesale. And there's no meeting voters at the coffee shop or at the bar like they used to do.
Yeah, well, it's just it's
Everything's
just,
by email.
It's really interesting what you were saying about Governor Whitmer of Michigan, where she said, she's there to take care of her state and her constituents first. Walsh had this to say: members of Congress are the most connected to the average person when they first run. So he encouraged Democrats to go back to your first race and think about the issues voters wanted them to solve. Good advice. Go back to your first race when you used to sit in those restaurants and diners and listen instead of spouting off your mouth all the time. And then here's a quote, final quote I'm going to read from this interview, which really hits home. You're elected to represent people, he said. You're not necessarily elected to represent a point of view.
Well,
Wow.
that's what Governor Whitmer said.
That's right. Punto e basta e finì, as we say in Italy. You know, the point is made, enough is enough. And here's Marty Walsh, who's got a nice $10 million a year job now.
As we say, basta, basta.
Yeah. But you know what? And more Democrats, former leaders in the party, like he was, now he's running the National Hockey League. He's an executive director of the Players Union and stuff. God bless him. Marty makes a lot of sense. And he was always a moderate Democrat, wasn't he?
He was a moderate Democrat.
Yeah, all the way through, which are hard to find, about as rare as the dodo bird. But it's true. What event has to take place for the Democrat Party to build that center again, Peter?
Probably another loss, another national defeat.
Yeah.
Lose Congress and then lose the presidency again in 2028. That's what it's going to take. They're so far out to lunch, I don't know if they can come back. Look at the leaders that get quoted in the national news.
Yeah.
And they're talking about issues that were settled in the last election. I mean, they're still talking about the election as if it happened 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. And they're attacking Trump as though the next election were next week. Trump has 1,000 more days to serve.
Well,
as
it's
president.
Just by every day you open the paper, the Boston Globe, and every story is a negative headline about Trump with another Democrat coming out and just beating the drum slowly. Okay, and that's what happened this past election. People just get sick and tired, and then they didn't believe it anymore.
Right.
It was like crying wolf,
Right.
and said, we're going to try something different. The country was running pretty well, the economy under Trump, plus the immigration problem. The Democrats still, they're still in favor of gang members coming across the border, living in our communities, getting a free ride, getting free lodging. I mean, it's absolutely
It doesn't make
crazy.
any sense. They are pro-illegal immigrant. They are against banning men in women's sports. I mean, I don't know where it ends.
Well, so did you see the story? This was something that I saw. This was online. Oh, this was in the New York Post. Child rapist migrant who fled Brazil found living at Massachusetts daycare center. This is unbelievable. It was now no relation to you. The guy's name was, his last name was, it was, what is it, Diego Lucas. I mean,
Just call me Diego.
Diego, child rapist Andre Diego Lucas, who's reportedly the father of the home daycare's owner's 2 kids, escaped Brazil for the States after he was sentenced in 2016 to 9 years and 4 months in prison, according to the Immigration, Customs Enforcement agents. Now, he was a fugitive and arrested by federal immigration agents in Cape Cod in October.
And good for the Cape Cod Times. They reported that story.
They did originally. Okay, why wasn't this given any play? And when I read this in the Post, I couldn't remember ever reading this.
I haven't seen it in the Boston papers.
No. And now the daycare center has been shut down. His wife was the owner, Francielle Nunes. She allowed her license to expire, but there was no background check. No one from the state, which has the Department of Early Education and Care, they go to the daycare center, they issue the license, and they're supposed to go back and check and make sure that everything is in order. This guy was living there for 2 years.
Let me tell you something, Jim. If it wasn't for Leah Foley, the U.S. attorney, this guy and others like him would be running amok in Massachusetts.
Yeah?
Because the state authorities have done nothing to cope with these illegal immigrants, criminals running around. In fact, we defend them. And if it wasn't for the U.S. attorney, things would be much worse than they are.
Oh, I mean, another one right under our noses, and Massachusetts State Representative Stephen Ziahos. Is he from the Cape? He must be from the
state
Cape.
rep, yeah.
Okay, raised concerns about the state's ability to ensure child safety at local daycares after learning of Lucas's history. Quote: "You've really got to, I think, go out of your way to make sure each place is as safe as it should be, and that's what, with proper background checks, looking around when you visit to see if there's any signs of anything wrong," he said. But he went on to to say this immigration policy where you're afraid to even check on the background of these people. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You're putting innocence in harm's way. So there's another incident. I had to read in the New York Post about the story.
Yeah.
Now, great, the Cape Cod Times did it,
Yes.
but why didn't anybody pick up on it?
I don't know, but I'm sure Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney, will pick up on it.
Well, yeah,
If
she's the one, I guess, with the ICE. There was cooperation with her office and ICE, but this guy is now in custody, and I'm waiting for Markey and Senator Warren to go down and now find out where's he being held in custody, and can we release him and get him a good lawyer on the taxpayer.
Yeah, they'll be down there on Mother's Day, I'm sure.
Unbelievable. So there's just another incident that just keeps spiraling out of control. Now let's get back to the Mass State House, which you covered diligently, okay, and talk about this latest. I don't know. I don't want to call it a scandal, but it sure smells where the House Speaker Mariano, inserted into the House's budget 2 minutes before it was going to the House floor for a vote. Final 2 minutes, an amendment to build a $25 million parking garage in his hometown of Quincy using the state's millionaire's tax money.
Quincy is the new Boston.
Quincy is the new Boston. Hey, I worked at the Quincy Patriot Ledger, a beautiful downtown. Used to go outside after the paper was went to bed at night. Used to go. They used to have the presidential right down there, a little bar. You could have a drink and stuff, you know. But those were the glory days. Quincy Patriot Ledger. I worked down. It was circulation was 92,000. I bet you it doesn't even have a 12,000 circulation.
But they got a lot of places to park.
They got a lot of places to park.
Oh, will have. We'll have when his garage goes
the
up.
Speaker going to receive any backlash for this? Because that money, the taxpayers voted for the millionaire's tax, that the money was supposed to be dedicated for public education and public transportation projects, which included bridges, infrastructure, and roads.
Let me ask you this. We've both been around a long time. Who's going to object? The governor?
Well,
I don't think so.
She hasn't even raised a peep about this.
The Senate president? I don't think so. She probably wants a garage in Ashland or someplace. The Republican Party hardly exists at the State House, hardly exists in Massachusetts. The Quincy Patriot Ledger is not going to object.
Well, the group, it's interesting that the group that put up millions to lobby,
they object.
To pass as a referendum question, but they've objected, but mildly. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, this isn't what the intent of that law was for. And of course, Mariano, I got to give him credit. That's why he's now Speaker. He had a reply, like, oh well, this is, it is infrastructure, the parking garage, and it is economic development for the downtown.
And they do have a T station.
And they do have a
two or three, whatever.
Yeah, about a mile away. But he mentioned that the hospital workers, I think it was a Brigham and Infants that has a hospital nearby, will certainly benefit from the parking garage. Where do they park now? I don't know. But I'll tell you, talk about stretching the law, and once again, a pet project, House Speaker. I mean, $25 million. That's a.
They don't stretch the law. They make the law. They may stretch the way they do it, but they do make the law. And the governor will sign this.
Yeah. So the next time you see a ballot question, for another millionaire's tax, the way things are going in this state, it might be the cutoff might be 750,000 the next
Well,
time.
how about the
you try
ballot question that passed with 72% of the vote to audit the legislature?
Yeah.
To have the state auditor audit the legislature. I'm sure the auditor, Diane 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐲𝐢, would love to talk about this $25 million appropriation.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So now the process as it goes, this has to go before the Senate.
Right.
And since this was not in the Senate version of their bill, it's going to have to be reconciled with the Senate President Karen Spilka. We'll see how this plays out, but I'll tell you, it's business as usual down at the State House.
But not only that, if you ever go to Quincy, you'll have a place to park.
All I know is Lowell, city of Lowell, where I live, they built 6 parking garages, and we had to pay out of the taxpayers had to pay out of the pocket itself. Now, granted, we did get some foundation money. It might have been $1 million. I remember for one garage, but nothing like this. Not to build the entire garage. $25 million.
You never had a speaker.
Yeah, that's true. We never had a speaker. But we had the chairman, the Senate chairman of Ways and Means. That was Steve Panagiotakis. Do you remember that, Teddy? And we did very, very well under Steve and our State House delegation. But they wouldn't be so brass, okay, or brazen, I should say, as to take the people's money.
There were fewer eyes on the legislature. There are fewer reporters reporting on it. There are fewer news outlets, and it's not covered the way it used to be. You never even see a roll call. Not that they take roll calls these days, but when they do, you never see that printed in the paper. You don't know how your legislator voted, and therefore they get away with a lot more than they ordinarily would have in the past. Well, unfortunately,
especially when when daily you have the Attorney General Campbell, Maura Healey, and other legislators complaining that public funding is being cut to nonprofits. Our communities are going to be going to deteriorate. They're going to be torn apart, and yet the House Speaker, just by a stroke of the pen, takes $25 million of the puts it somewhere. I mean, couldn't that go to a pre-kindergarten program that might fix it?
No, kindergartners don't vote.
That's a good point, Peter. Tough to go up against you, let me tell you. But no, I mean it just leads to more cynicism about government, and it diminishes the people's trust in it, whether it's a local level, state level, national level. I mean, it's just another nail in the coffin. Another nail in the coffin. So now. Here's another thing that crossed my desk in a story that this was from the New York Times. Now, my headline is, where have you not seen this story before? Here's a Boston Globe headline of a New York Times story by Eric Lipton and David Yaffe Belanti. This was published this past week. Trump's sons' deals on 3 continents directly benefit the president. Did you ever see a headline like that when Hunter Biden was in his glory with Big Uncle Jim Biden?
No, never.
And he was red flagged 159 times by the U.S. Treasury Department with wire transfers from China, Ukraine. I mean, this is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
And so the New York Times story is about how Eric and Donald Trump Jr., are globetrotting. They have, they're a businessman in their own right, and they're cutting deals for hotels, restaurants, resorts in Dubai and all these other countries, but they're making no bones about it. They're doing it all in the open. The Times even says it, but yet they're questioning whether this is a conflict of interest, and they're saying, well, where's the conflict of interest? Even the White House legal counsel said, tell us where the conflict is. They're doing this in the open.
At least they're coming up with a product. They're going to build things. Hunter Biden didn't build anything.
He didn't build anything, and here he is taking secret money from Burisma, which was run by some of the shadiest.
And the
people.
big guy was getting 10%.
And the big guy was getting 10%. So, I mean, if anything, we got to applaud Trump's sons that, they're not doing it with the, the father there shaking hands or shaking down people and stuff. They're going out on their own and doing this and cutting deals, just like the old man.
They're business people.
But the Times point is, they're trading on the father's name.
Who doesn't?
yeah. So, but that's why I said, where have we not seen this story before? Because you didn't see it when Hunter Biden, when his father was vice president. That's when it first started. And even President Barack Obama had to chide Joe Biden and his team at the time because he said, hey, cool it. Because Biden was getting involved in his son's dealings and meeting with all these shady people.
There are no videos of the Trump sons with hookers or drugs or guns.
I know. So I mean, God bless the Trumps for doing this stuff, doing it right in the open, and they're paying their taxes. But two reporters who didn't have anything better to do, for days' work for the New York Times. Yeah. So you wonder where they get these stories and stuff like that. But that's another beauty. So what do you got there, Peter? Digging deep into your chest there, your vault.
Well, I'm looking at the U.S. Attorney, Leah Foley, and how she operates in Massachusetts. And I got to say, we got to be lucky we have her as the U.S. Attorney. She's doing stuff in the area of crime and illegal immigration that if she weren't doing it, it wouldn't be getting done. Week after week, she puts out a list of the cases she's handled. A lot of them are child pornography cases, illegal immigrant gun running, guys running around with machine guns, and so on and so forth. And the interesting thing about it is she does it without any state cooperation at all. No cooperation from the Attorney General or from the administration. She's out there on a limb. Granted, she's got resources, but it seems to me it's such a wide open field that you would think that state police authorities would get involved too. But she does it all alone, on her own. It's amazing how much she's getting done. And it's good for the Commonwealth. It's good for the people.
Yeah, there were reports at one time when her predecessor, twice removed, Andrew Lelling, when he left, that he might be thinking about contemplating a run for office in Massachusetts. Have you heard anything more about
Yeah, there was talk when he first left, but it was only talk. Yeah. I think he's too smart to run as a Republican in Massachusetts. Yeah. And any Republican who runs and does not get any support from Trump doesn't have much of a chance, in my opinion.
Does Foley have any political ambitions?
Not that I know of. No, I think she's a straight shooting prosecutor. Yeah. And a good one.
Yeah, and if things go the way Trump thinks they're going to go, she'll probably hold that office for as long as she wants, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Throughout Trump's administration. Don't forget, remember, her predecessor was Rochelle Robbins, who was a district attorney before U.S. attorney. And she was the one who said it was okay to steal up to $1,200. It was fine to shoplift under her. She was not going to prosecute. And we've gone from that extreme to now a moderate law enforcement official.
Yeah. Well, I just find it ironic that Tanya Fernandez Anderson, right, the city council,
right?
She admitted her guilt in court last week.
That was a federal case. That was Foley's case.
Yeah, Foley's case. But she still hasn't resigned from the city council.
She's making $120,000 still.
Yes, and I mean, I just can't believe it. And yet there's been no outrage over it coming from, Boston city councilors, the mayor, although I know Michelle Wu had said in the past that she should step down, but no one has really come out and said, hey, okay, enough is enough. So what does she do? She's waiting till her sentencing, which is in a couple of weeks, and then is she going to keep that seat in jail?
I think she'll keep the seat until she's sentenced.
Can she do that?
Why not? There's no one to force her out.
What an affront to the people.
It is an affront to the people, but, you know, there's some sympathy for her. I mean, she came to this country as a 6-year-old immigrant from Cape Verde, and she's a Muslim, first Muslim elected to the city council. Of course, first Muslim city council to go to jail on top of that. But there is some sympathy for her, and she probably needs the money to pay the lawyer.
Yeah, well, that's no excuse. I don't care what her background is, and you know, you're American. You go by the rules. Who said that no one's above the law? Right? Was it that Ayanna Presley or who was that? Campbell?
Hillary Clinton. Somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, so she should step down.
No one is above the law except sometimes.
Yeah. Well, they're just putting it in the public's face. It's a slap in the face, and that's why once again I said, you know, people lose respect for politicians. And I told you, I was reading the Jimmy Breslin book. I finally finished it, and you said you're starting to read it and stuff. But there's a passage in there about saying, you know, he says in one of his columns, you know, you see a police officer at the end of the day. The guy takes his hat off and he's wiping his brow. A firefighter, he's got soot on his face and he's just he can hardly stand up and walk. He says, you see a teacher at the end of the day. They say, boy, I'm tired. I can't wait to go home. He says, you see a politician. They're always in front of the cameras, and no one's ever tired. When did you ever hear a politician say, oh, I'm weary doing the people's work? He says, it's unbelievable. He says, they never get tired doing anything, he says, except talking themselves to death. But it's true. It's true.
Well, sometimes they get tired raising money. And that takes some work.
With their manicured hands and well coiffed hair. So anyway,
the president was an ace reporter. He was a terrific reporter.
Yeah,
I'm into the book now, and a lot of admiration for the guy. He changed the nature of the newspaper business and taught a lot of reporters how to be reporters.
Yeah.
And him along with Tom Wolfe.
Yes, Tom Wolfe. Yeah.
Here's a little aside. My first newspaper job was at the Springfield Union in Springfield, Mass. And I was hired because Tom Wolfe had just quit to go back to New York and become Tom Wolfe. And I got his typewriter in his desk.
Wow.
But nobody knew who Tom Wolfe was back then.
Yeah.
But then later on, he made a name for himself.
Yeah.
And so I sort of made a little name for myself by taking over Tom Wolfe's desk.
Yeah. Well, I just purchased two books that Breslin wrote. His first one, it was his second one, The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight, about the mob wars and stuff. And then the Can't Anyone Play This Game, about the 1964 Mets. They were so inept, lost 120 games. So I just ordered those. Tell me, any insider thoughts on the election of a new pope?
Well,
the Vatican starts today, the conclave.
I nominated Ray Flynn.
He might have a chance. He just shows up in the crimson.
Don't forget, he co-authored a book called The Accidental Pope.
Yeah,
I don't remember that. But where a civilian was elected pope. Yeah. And so he's got my vote.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a long conclave, a short one, or what?
Everything is so secret. Secret ballots, secret voting. Nobody talks about it. You got to wait for the smoke to come out. That's no way to run an election.
What do you think an American might?
Oh no American.
No chance.
No chance. No.
Right. Well,
but I love the majesty. The religious majesty is magnificent, and anytime you see videos of St. Peter's Square, it's just wonderful. Yeah. And the Sistine Chapel which I've been at. The Michelangelo ceiling is just magnificent.
It's beautiful. So, well, unless there's anything else on your plate.
The only thing else, I'm planning on a double date with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
With Jordan.
With Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, what is going to happen? What's the end game there? What do you think?
I don't know. I think he needs a PR man like Prince Harry does. You know, they're like in the same boat. They need PR help. Bad.
Well, I don't like it. Some of his longtime friends even, chastising him and wondering what this is all about. I mean, even Ted Johnson, one of his former players, came on and said North Carolina should fire him and stuff. That this woman, his partner, is taking control. I don't know. I just say leave the guy alone. You know, let's see how he does.
Yeah, leave the guy alone, but the guy should stay off television, coming on with an old frayed navy sweater that's seen better days.
Yeah, that was terrible.
And he's answering. He's pushing the book, and he's answering questions as though he's still the coach, not giving anyone answers to any questions. You know, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So I think he's got a PR problem there. He's got to hire someone and straighten this situation out right away. And Jordan should stick to her real estate projects and maybe fashion. But this showing up at practice and talking to him and the emails and doing his emails.
Hey, she may be calling the plays.
Well, we know. Well, go blue.
When North Carolina faces Duke or something like that.
Yeah, well, you know what? If they win the first game, you never know. But we'll see what happens. So until next week, our show. Read Peter Lucas's columns. It appears they appear 3 times a week in the Boston Herald. They're always energetic, enthusiastic, and informative. So read his column, and until next week, may the
ciao, baby.
Ciao. Well, hopefully we'll have a new pope. We'll see you then.